well, we didn't know it at the time, but every morning I would get up, I would get sick. I was sick every morning, and it lasted for a couple hours. Finally, when she found out that she was pregnant, I didn't get sick anymore, and she did.
Yeah,
So that's
sympathy
so much for that.
premonition.
Let's see.
Look the other way, bud. That might be interesting. Which way? Maybe I could use a guy like you.
I guess how we found out Mom was pregnant with Fred, she just got big. And she showed, I guess, quite early. How did we find out that Mom was pregnant? I kept telling her she was changing life because she was 40. And she knew she was pregnant, she said, but so we went to the doctors, and sure enough, she was pregnant. Describe the day that I was born. It was a day like all days, except you were there.
Thanks.
No, it was a beautiful day. Mary was delighted because she'd been praying for you for years. And I guess we had Aunt Anna and Uncle Wally take care of Fred and Mary while we brought her home. No, they were old enough to be in school. Somebody took care of them while we were.
Hello, Jimmy. I'm not late, am I?
8 years later, right?
Oh, Jimmy, this is Mr. Aldrich of the office.
Well, we were delighted.
Kind enough to drive you back from
I
lunch.
can't tell you.
Mom lived with us.
Huh?
She took care of us.
What?
Mom lived with us.
Oh,
She
okay.
took
Mom
care
probably
of
took
you.
care and got the kids to the bus to go to school. And I spent the day down at the hospital in the morning. Huh?
We didn't have a bus then.
Well, whatever. I spent most of the morning at the hospital.
So funny.
We're going
And,
outside, but one of us must be nutty.
Just like the other two, you were beautiful.
Oh, I can see you now up on the platform with a pitcher of water and a ballet dancing around some gauze drapes.
Where were you when you heard of JFK
I'm happy to be contributing so much to your
assassination? I was in a meeting.
I assure you mine is a very dignified and lucrative
We were having a
This gentleman will not be swimming around
group
in a
meeting,
tank like a seal,
or
performing at a carnival with a
like a
nut
staff
leaning on
meeting,
one
and
side and a
we
fire
heard
eater on the
somebody,
other. You don't like
somebody's
it?
secretary come in, told us in the door.
And, you
The
don't like
meeting
swimming
broke
around
up
in a
pretty
taxi?
quickly,
Or
and
did
I was
she?
supposed to go to Florida that
Woman like
day
Miss Kellerman.
to interview for a job with
I think
Martin
it's about
Marietta
time that you learn to enjoy
for a
war.
reliability engineer. They were looking for a reliability engineer, and they thought that I was a good candidate, but Mom didn't want me to go, and she had a premonition, which probably worked out because I didn't go. I went to work, and sure enough, as fate had it, our president got killed. How many other places did we live? Well, where and why? Well, we lived in Valley Forge Homes, and after about 5 years, we moved, and I liked the Lafayette Park homes. I liked the Washington Park homes, but I didn't like the way they were built, and Volpe was taking suggestions on how to improve the Lafayette Park homes. So we went over and looked at the sample, and I told him that that was pretty good. But I gave him a suggestion that I didn't like going into the living room and looking upstairs through into the bedrooms. So he changed that by putting a fireplace in a clothes closet, and put the stairs to the upstairs behind it, which was a very big improvement. And sure enough, we went over and looked at the house, and we liked it. We were one of the first ones to pick out our lots, and I picked our lot because it was off the main highway, off of Allendale Road, and it was one of the largest lots. Ours and our lot and Herzog's were two of the largest lots in the area. It was a half acre. So And I liked where the tree was going to be in the front yard, so we selected Lafayette Park. While we were at Lafayette Park, after how many years?
1972.
57 to 69.
59.
Or 69. That's
57,
72
12 years?
We moved back.
Huh?
It was 72 when we moved back.
So it was 70 when we sold it. Well, 69, 70. Okay, we lived there for 13 years at Lafayette, and I was working at GE at the time, and they selected me to be the manager to go down to Florida they were going to build 3 complete sites for mole, test sites for mole. Had many computers, many different checkout stations and what have you, and it was a big operation. I was going to go down there and have 12 engineers and 4 technicians to work on this computerized mole tracking station and checkout station. The week that we went down, we bought a house, put money down on it, and sold our house in King of Prussia. I found out it was up the week we were going to move on a Wednesday, and it came over to the air. Nixon announced they were canceling the MO program. They were going to come on Friday to put our stuff, pack our stuff, and we were going to move down that weekend. Well, I was about ready to eat lunch, and I just lost my appetite because there was no program. So I told your mother, forget about lunch. I went right into my manager's office, and I said, well, what's going to happen? The mole program was just canceled. He said, yeah, we heard from Washington, and but he said, I can't tell you anything, but I don't think you have a job. So immediately I went down we had 2 lawyers working at GE, and I went down and talked to the lawyers, and I told them my problem. I said, I got money down on a house down there. I got a house here that I sold, and blah, blah, blah. I explained all the things, and I asked them what my options were. And he told me I had no option on selling the house. It was a done deal. I had to get out the house by the end of June. I had to find someplace else to live. And then he told me don't worry about the house in Florida. You just cancel out GE. You'll pick up the money down there. Blah blah blah. And they told me all the good stuff. And then but they told me I had to go on my own. And they said they wouldn't reimburse me for my transfer until I bought another house. So we went looking for a house for the next couple of weeks. Now all over our area, all the way over, past Lansdale, all over. We found something in Audubon we thought we'd like. And it wasn't going to be supposedly done until September, but we found out it wasn't, after we put money down, it wasn't going to be done until December. But in the meantime, they also had apartments in King of Prussia, or Bridgeport. What were the names?
Belmont Plaza.
Yeah, Belmont Plaza. So they told me they could run us that in the meantime, and maybe we could make that do until I found my house. So we went, we looked at it, and we decided, yeah, we could do this and do that, and have Fred sleep on the sofa, you and Mary in the bedroom, and me in the bedroom, and Mom, and we were going to, and in the meantime, GE said that they would pick up the tab for the apartment. So that's what we decided, to move to the Belmont Plaza, which was in the summer to begin with, and had a swimming pool and all all the amenities that we think. In the meantime, we were going to have this moonshot, which was in the Bronx, and another in the meantime. I had 12 engineers and 4 technicians to get a job for. They weren't worried about me getting a job, they were worried about me getting those other guys a job. So I had a lot of work to do. I had to find a house, I had to get a job for myself, and had to get a job for all the other. So I interviewed up in Massachusetts, and they did, and I interviewed with different people, and I decided I was going to take the job up in Massachusetts. It was a new group for checking fuel consumption on the big L-10-11 airplanes and the heavies like that, which was a very interesting job. So I told the guy I would get it, and I'd come up. Well, after I was there for about 2 weeks, I heard that they were going to go out on a long strike. It was a bad day, and I already had a job at Control Data. I had interviewed and had offered a job at Control Data over in Trooper. So after I thought about it, and I went in and talked to my boss, I said, what's going to happen to me if I stay here with GE? And he said, well, he'll keep you on for a couple of weeks, maybe a month. But then if it's a long strike, we're going to have to lay you off. And I said, no, I'm not going to come up here and get laid off after a couple of months and move the family up and try to buy a home. So I called your mother, and I said, call to Control Dad and tell him I'm taking a job, I'm coming home, I'm handing in my resignation right now. So I did a good job for him up there. I got him straightened out. There was a lot of things that were wrong that they were doing. They were only getting about a 20% yield on their unit, and I told them how they could improve it to get about 85 to 90% yield, and I wrote a big report. And the guy was really impressed with it, and he really wanted me to stay, but I said, hey, unless you can guarantee I'm going to stay on, I can't guarantee I'm going to be here, so I'm giving you my resignation in the morning. That was Thursday. Friday morning I took it in and gave it to him, and I made plans to go home, and I started work a week later at Control Data. So at that time we moved. At that time I was looking for a house, and I found one on Valley Forge Road that was going up for sale, and the guy had only about a 3 or 4 day window to get down to Merlin, so I knew I could make a good deal on the house. So I offered him a figure that I thought was fair, and there was no points at the time. They were running for points, and you had to pay money for points and what have you. So I got the house almost for a lot less than I sold my other house for, so I decided I wanted to take it. It was a nice house, and I was really pleased with it. So we did that. We moved in there, and while I was at Control Data, I still was getting interviews or getting feedback from all the jobs that I interviewed for before. So it was April the 1st. I got a call before April the 1st. I got a call to go out April the 1st to interview at Westinghouse in Pittsburgh. So I got a plane and went out the night before. Next morning I went and I got a physical from the doctor to take his job. I probably would have had to relocate to the Chicago area because it was a job with vendors, doing vendor work. So the doctor said, I have to reject you. I said, what do you mean? He said, you got high blood pressure. So I said, oh, is that so? He said, yeah. So he said, if I were you, I'd go home and I'd see your own doctors. So I went home and I went to Panero, and Panero said, "Oh, it's only medium high." He said, "This is what we call medium high. It's not no thing." He said, "I can fight the case if you want to go to work for Westinghouse." I said, "No." I said, "Just as soon I'll stay here and see what happens, see what develops." So I stayed at Control Data. They took me back. Were happy to have me. I did a lot of work for Control Data to save them a lot of money over the years. And so at the time we found a home in the Valley Forge Road, and it was beautiful. We were there for a couple of years. And I liked it, and Mom liked it, but after 2 years, Mrs. Grosick called her, and nobody knew about it except the people that were selling it, the people that bought the house, our house, old house, here, and Mrs. Grosick. And she called Mom and told her, she said, "Your house is going up for sale. The guy that was there was on a training program, and it's 2 years is up, and he's going back to Ohio." The next morning at 5 o'clock, your mother wakes me and says, "Dad, I want my house back." I said, "What do you mean?" Then she told me the story. And I said, "Go to sleep. I said, we'll talk about it later." She said, "No, I want my house back." I said, "Go to sleep. We'll talk about it later." So she kept insisting. I said, "Okay, we'll try to get the house back." So I called Wagner, who was the realty that I sold through, and I bought the other house through. So I called him and I said, "I'd like to buy the house back." He said, "So is it for sale?" I said, "Yeah." He said, I said, "You don't know about it?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, it's for sale." And I said, "The guy has to go back to Ohio." And I said, "Offer him the same price he paid for it." So he called me back that morning about 10 o'clock, about a couple hours after I talked to him. Because I called him first thing. Yeah, that one, there it is. There's the biggie. He called him back and said, "No, he didn't go for it, Fred." I said, "Well, offer him $1,000 more." I was going to go up the scale. And that afternoon he called me back. He said, "You go for $1,000 more." So I said, "Okay." I said, "Now," I said, "if you make the deal," I said, "I'll give you this house so for the sell has sold really. You get the whole 6% if you can sell it, and I know you can sell it within 2 weeks because the houses were going good." And I said, "I'll buy my house back." And he said, "Okay." So sure enough, he did sell it within a couple of weeks. And that's good. So we bought the 380 Anthony Road back, and we're moving in little by little. Finally, your mother wanted to come back because she wanted to be close to the school for you guys, so you didn't have to climb the hill. And so we come back to the whole house, and we put this room on, the back room on, when we come back, and a couple other fixes up. So that's the houses we lived in since we were married. We only lived in 3 of the 4 houses we were assigned. We didn't live in Florida. The place in Florida was a beautiful place. We did have a boat, and we had a place down in Merlin, a summer place. It was like a cabin, or one big room with a kitchen and a living space. And I had a 16-foot Lone Star boat that we went crabbing in almost all the time, over all summer, for a couple of years. How many years do we have that place down there?
I don't know.
About 8 to 10 years, I guess.
Oh, no, we didn't have it that long.
Wasn't that long?
I don't think so.
It was quite a while. It was at least 5. Well, anyhow, we going to Florida. I sold the place because I thought I was going to Florida.
Mm.
And while we were selling the place, the guy that I was replacing in Florida had a boat. I was going to buy that, but he let me get out of the deal because he had a sale for, he could sell it down there And that's what the thing was all about. I wasn't going to transfer my boat down, and he wasn't going to transfer that boat. He was going to sell it there, and I sold mine, and he sold his. So, and I had another boat, a small one, a dinghy with a motor, and I sold them all at the same time in Maryland. Locust Point, Maryland. We owned the boat, yep. What job were you supposed to be working on in Florida? I told you it was the mole program, which was a spy satellite, which had a big mirror in it and a station that with a lot of photography, high, what do they call it? Resolution, very high resolution cameras that were specially made for us. They were made in our GE's research lab, which was kind of a development that nobody knew about, and it was a really a great thing. And while we were working on the mole, things got slow. I made a console that was simulated the mole program for the astronauts to operate, and the mole console was various operations, taking pictures, what have you, seeing the ground, focusing in, locating the mirror. The mirror was 12 foot in diameter, very high resolution. It was pointing out the bay, the base of the mole program, and you could read license plates on the automobiles at 100 miles up. And that's the resolution it had. But again, and then the thing I made, they put in water, and of course it operated like space in water. And the guys we had all kind of new knobs, and of course you had to work with gloves on. It was very interesting. It was very thing. And then things got a little slow, and they loaned me to Burlington, Vermont for it was 6 months, I guess, almost a year. I guess 9 months. 9 months, and I was traveling back and forth to Vermont, and they decided Burlington, Vermont, and it was a minigun for the helicopters, and they decided that I could go up there and live for a couple months while they were still working on it. So I moved the family up there in a kind of a motel atmosphere, and Fred went to school, and
That's where he had his first
Mary
cell
went to
phone.
school up there for part of the year. And I came back, and after the mole contract it was canceled, I went to work in control data, and I was in control data to 70.
79.
79.
Just 10 years.
And GE was gas. I left control data, went to a place over in Jersey, which promised me a big bonus, which after about 6 months decided they weren't going to pay me the bonus because they didn't have the money. So I was talking to Bill Oxer one time, and he said, GE, because of the gas crunch, they're looking for people. So I said, well, take my resume, give it to the employee people, and see what they can do for me. So they had about 6 jobs that they called me in on the interview, and I got, out of the 6, I got 3 offers, and I took the one that I thought I'd like most, which was subcontracting, which was going out and making sure the vendors did what they were supposed to do the testing, write the test reports, and travel around the country. So it was a very interesting time in my life. I retired in 1990 from GE. What were some of the highlights of your job? Well, traveling was one of them. I guess working with the subcontracts, you had to present yourself as a GE employee, always wearing a jacket or a suit coat, shirt and tie, always being respectful and what have you. So it was a very interesting thing. You go to the subcontract and of course they always told you you're representing GE, so you had to be very professional. And I liked the job. I liked what I was doing. One of the highlights, you said, what were the highlights of the job? One of the highlights of the job was that, and I worked on this for over a year and a half, I guess, was that Ball made a mistake. Well, Ball didn't make a mistake. Ball did a revision to the sun sensors and took the UV blocker off. The UV blocker not only blocked some of the UV, but it also blocked the protons and